Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome from wherever you are joining today. My name is Susan, and I'm joined by Dexibit founder Angie Judge. Welcome, Angie.
Hi, Susan.
Today, we are going to be diving into how to write data queries. But to begin with, I'm going to take you through a quick introduction to Dexibit for anyone that may be new here, and then we'll get into data queries. So if you're new to Dexibit, we do data analytics specifically for visitor attractions. This is for both cultural and commercial organizations. Our mission is to democratize data, and we do that by bringing together all sorts of data from around the visitor's experience in your venue's operations. So things like footfall, ticketing, CRM, point of sale, e-commerce, social web, weather, and so much more. So I will share my screen now to show you what that looks like in the product. Here is Dexibit. It is software as a service, so you can invite as many users as you'd like, and you can build dashboards, reports, insights, and forecasts, which you can then turn into scheduled email reports at a click of a button. In Dexibit, we have a huge library of visualizations. To add one to your dashboard, you can simply search for the topic you are looking for and click Add to add it in. And this is an example dashboard, so you can see lots of different data coming together in these visualizations to get everything from very high-level data right down through to the very detailed data. So I'll hand it over to Angie now, and to start us off, perhaps you could tell us whether you need to be able to write data queries to use Dexibit.
Well, that's a good one. Thanks for that, Susan. Yeah, so the point of Dexibit is that we democratize data for visitor attractions, and that includes both data newbies and data experts. And so to your question, do you need to be able to write queries to use Dexibit? No, but you can if you want. So Dexibit is a point-and-click data experience, and let me show you what I mean by that. Go ahead and share a screen again. And so we were just looking at one of your example dashboards, and we can see here when we're working with a visualization, we've got some point and click style access to look at various different things. But if we want to, we can get really, really specific to come in and refine a visualization to slice and dice the data up in any way that we like. And there's lots of different times that we can use queries in Dexibit or elements of them. And this is one of them. Here I'm looking at my top 5 products from my top 5 and my top 5 sellers for each of those products. So you can see here, I've got, let's blow this up actually. I've got a when the sun goes out card, this seal is a good boy card, my pretend attraction is in Antarctica, and this is my retail data, hence the fun names. And what I want to do is focus in on merchandise that's about penguins, because I'm really interested in penguins. And I can come in and I can add in a query. This is using DXQL. So it's a language, a query language like SQL. It simplifies and extends SQL in ways that are useful for visitor attractions. And elsewhere in Dexibit, I can also use SQL itself if I'm familiar with that. Or if you're like me and you don't write queries, you're not a data analyst by trade, it might be easier to come in here and just say, in my own words, products with penguin in the name. And I can click this magic wand here. And this uses generative AI to create that same query that I would otherwise be typing out or have to think about. And so that's one place of where you can use queries, but you don't have to know how to write queries to use Dexibit, even in this really powerful way. And so we might move into behind the scenes, because today we're going to look at where data comes in from, and then how we manage it and the opportunities for using queries within there. So I mentioned there were 3 places where you can use queries in Dexibit, and using them in the visualization, the where statement that we just did, whether it's DexQL or with AI, this is a great opportunity to slice and dice. But there's some more opportunities behind the scenes here in the Data Explorer. So the Data Explorer is where data administrators, system administrators, so more technical people come in to help manage data and decide what are we going to do with it, how's it going to be accessed, what does it look like, how are we going to transform or automate that data. So in this Data Explorer, I have all of my different data sets where I'm bringing data together, and you can see I can open up each one of those data sets and go through and have a look at all of the different attributes that are available within that data set. And one of the things that I can do is I can either create derived metrics, or I can create transformations or enrichments or layer on AI to my existing metrics. So I've got all of the metrics that are available to me from this source system, and I can add more metrics based on that data or change up that data to otherwise automate it. So for example, in here, we've got a little transformation applying on top of the product name to add in the words merch in front of the product name. And you'll see when I was looking at my products here, you can see each one of them is sort of fronted by this word merch. And let's say I don't like that. So I'm going to just delete that, and I'm going to hit save. It dramatically speeds up our time to insight, which is super powerful. And what's really cool is, again, we can use AI to create these derived metrics, which is even more fun. And so that's the second place that we can write queries. And then the third one is this big query box here, where I can start to write full queries. So far we've been looking at where statements, so the piece of the data that's filtering what's happening in a visualization. We've written a derived metric or a transformation to be able to handle a metric. Now we want to write a full sort of select query to work with our data set. And this is a skill that you'd need to have if you were working with data as an analyst or an administrator. So here in Dexibit, you've got a couple of choices again. You can write with DexQL or SQL. And a nice fun way to get started actually is if we come back to our dashboard, we can grab the copy the query from behind a visualization, and we can just simply paste that into this query box. And here we can then see the query that's already sitting behind that visualization, which is super fun. And here you can see our little where statement that we put into that box on the side and make our own query. So for example, let's say we're working with our almanac data set here, and we can say select, and you'll see as I'm typing, the options are coming up. Asterisk, which means select everything from, and then I'm saying almanac, this is the data set that I'm working with. And then I might give it a limit, let's say 100, just because I don't want to generate every single piece of data that's in that data set. And here you can see, for example, I'm seeing every entry that's gone into this data set and every attribute that's available in this data set. And you'll see by default, I can't see my derived metrics, so these metrics that I've layered into this data set, but I can, if I wanted to, sort of start to list them in here. What have we got here? Season. And just run that query again. And you can see now I've got my public holiday and my season coming into this data set here, which is really cool. So this is a nice, simple select statement. We've got select, what are we trying to select? Star for everything. We could equally just run is public holiday and is it the season. From, the data set that we're trying to select, and then anything else, and we could throw in our where statement on the back of this, which should be one way to do that. So for example, we might want to put in a date range to that select statement to grab data between two specific dates here. So we would add in that component on the back of that query. So the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you like with these statements. And this is a nice format to have at hand. Now, if you are new to writing queries, you can start here with the learn how to use a query box, and there's some example template queries that you can copy and paste in, or start as we did from copying and pasting in off a visualization. And you would have seen as well when we did that copy and paste, and let's just do that again. I'm pulling in my query here. You would have seen I used this format option that just sort of took my text and made it look pretty. And this is really useful for when you're writing quite complex queries. You can see we're using color to sort of delineate what elements of the queries are in there, and we're kind of spacing and tabbing everything out just to make it easier for the eye to read. So that's a really, really cool little thing, and you'll see that in a few different places as well. It appears up here, and this is a really simple little derived metric, but equally we can use that here just to sort of make our queries easily readable. And a couple of tricks that I find really useful is one of them is the function of distinct. And so distinct is a really great function to have at hand because it helps you sort of generate lists, and when you're working with data, it often helps to know what are all the different options that I've got in here. So for example, what are all the ticket products that I've got, or what are all of the what's a full list of all of the even retail merchandise products that I've got. So I love using the distinct function when I'm writing queries and when I'm working with data, especially if I'm trying to clean it up. Another one that's useful is to use the function of grouping by. So you would put this on the end of your query to sort of pivot it in and show your data grouped by a certain thing. So here, for example, I might like to group my data up by its channel. And you can see in here in this example, I'm actually putting in some equations. So I'm saying select my channel and then sort of look at my visitation for it, and then look at what that percent of visitation is from the total. So I thought this was a really cool example to demonstrate a couple of those things at work. Now, I'm going to try something. Hopefully the demo gods shine on me. The next party trick here that we want to look at is we want to bring together multiple data sets to create a new derived data set that combines data. And I'm going to try and do that from my almanac, so my calendar of what's on in and around the attraction, my visitation data, and the weather as well, because I want to create a data set where I can work with all of these three things really easily to slice and dice in visualizations. So this is the extent of that kind of query. It is overwhelming. It does take a while to write these things because we are doing some pretty cool stuff at this point. And one of the things that you'll see that I've got in my query here is you've got these dash things that don't look like queries. And wherever you put dash here when you're writing queries with SQL or similar, it turns these into a comment. And it's a really great practice when you're writing queries or any code is to be able to comment it out. It makes it easier for you to refer back. It makes it easier for other people to read what you're doing, even if they're not themselves confident writing queries. And it makes other people more comfortable to come in if they're managing this or picking this up in the future and trying to make changes. They can make those changes really confidently because of the instructions that you've left to explain your thinking, especially because when you write a query, there's often multiple ways where you can solve the same problem. So it helps to kind of explain how you've uniquely approached it. So you can see here, I'm explaining as I go with each step. And this is probably a lot of comments, but I'm explaining as I go for each step what I'm doing here. And what I'm going to do is hit the run button on this. We'll just make sure it works first of all. Oh, it does. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is hit this little button here. And I'm going to create a data set, which is my combined visitation enriched with almanac and weather. An example visitation data set. Just going to add some descriptions to it, and I'm going to hit create. And what this has done is, if you'll notice, I've got all of my different data sets from all my different systems and vendors. And here we go. Here is my data set that I just made. Here is all of the attributes that I pulled from those various systems. And you'll see in that query, I actually grouped on a bunch of things. So for example, I grouped on location ID to make sure that I was matching, because I've got multiple locations in Antarctica, matching location with location. I'm matching dates. And so I'm sort of grouping all of these things together. And here I can edit that query that I've saved, and then I might even make changes down the track to add other things in or change things. So I can then manage that as a dynamic live query where I can make updates and quickly save them and be ready in real time. And I can sort of see and manage each of the metrics that I'm using from this. And I can then use that data set to be able to call it up in my dashboard and create nice visualizations off the back of it. And even go as far as mapping it into a domain to say, this is my visitation, so I can unlock that functionality in Dexibit. So that is a super powerful skill to have. So have we got any questions?
Yes, so we've got one here. Is Dexibit going to add the magic AI wand to the Data Explorer query box?
Oh, that is a good question. So you would have seen that when I was using the function here to add an aware statement, I had a magic wand. And I have that same magic wand if we hop into the Data Explorer. If I was, for example, wanting to create a transformation, or so let's go ahead and do that. Here we go. Like I might take my date range and cast it into something else, or and change the time zone or something. Or if I wanted to add a derived metric, again, I've got this ability to use this magic wand to generate, turn my words into query language. We have not added that yet into this big query box where we can write these really complex queries, but this is where we're headed next. So it is on its way. In the meantime, I've just been using ChatGPT to help me, but of course it's way more helpful when it's trained up on my actual data and my actual data sets and their structures, because then I don't have to instruct it on all of those sorts of things. And I'm not then releasing that information out to ChatGPT as well. So that will be on its way soon. I'm really looking forward to having that myself, so I don't have to write these things out by hand.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Angie. And thank you everyone who's joined today. Look forward to seeing you next time.